you're going to trust God to guide you, he will provide for you. But that's not what they said, but
well, that's pretty good.
it was good. So,
And often he is preparing us for something.
Do you
Sorry,
think,
you had something.
I don't know. I always like counter questions. Like, so if God's guiding and providing, does his provision look like our provision?
Not always.
That's right. That's right.
Often looks very different.
Yeah, so it does, because he's a God who created a universe, and I'm Jerry who created the world of Jerry, and it's fairly jacked up at times. So I go back to the question of finding rest and decision making, because I can be really good at making the wrong decision. We do as humans, but he's also equipped us to make the right decision a lot of times. So from job change to financial insecurity to health, the starting of church almost 5 years ago, these things were big deals. And there's no way that my version it never worked out. So to find the solution, or to see the provision that he was going to provide, I had to go to rest and turn it over.
Hey, everyone. This is Hope.
I'm Donna.
I'm Bobby.
I'm Jerry.
And welcome to Jesus Loves Joe. This is our podcast where we are covering different topics each week. And we're glad you're joining us today. And our topic is, why is rest important? And doesn't that sound like a nice topic, guys?
Sounds nice.
Yes.
Sounds a little nicer than some of
some
our
rest.
topics.
We can get to take a nap.
Get some rest.
Absolutely. I think that's going to be one of our strategies.
Nap
I'm
time.
telling you what, that should be a good strategy. It isn't just for toddlers anymore.
That's right.
No.
Rest is good. Don't you wish you were in kindergarten again, guys? All right. Our scripture is going to be out of Matthew 11. We are going to look at verses 28 through 30. So I'll read those, and then we will talk about what stands out. Matthew 11:28. I love this verse. Come to me, all you who labor and are heavy laden, and I will give you rest. Take my yoke upon you and learn from me, for I am gentle and lowly in heart, and you will find rest for your souls. For my yoke is easy and my burden is light. So this is Jesus giving a sermon, and he says these words. And so I want to start with, what stands out to you guys?
I mean, should we talk about this? Okay. Oh.
It's not going to be about fire or anything, is it?
It's going to be about traffic jams.
So I'm tired today. So I think but in this passage, he's not talking about sleep, like go to sleep and rest. It's resting in him, like rest for our souls type of thing. Right, guys? No?
That's right. Yeah, I see it as there's a couple things in there. When I was walking through, I took notes, and I said I found relief from burdens was a key in there.
Yeah.
I also saw that I read about spiritual renewal is found in the rest that Jesus offers. Those are two of the couple things that I found. And yeah, rest we often associate with sleeping or something like that, but it is actually resting in him and in his word and the relationship that I have with him. And there's a relief from burden there as well, the burden of sin, but we won't get all into that just yet. It's kind of early, right? But yeah.
I kind of got Jesus is offering me like a partnership to help carry the burden when life gets heavy, and just like that he'll help me lighten the load by carrying some of it for me. He's not just going to take it all away, but he will certainly help compartmentalize some of it so that I can feel lighter in that burden that we do carry, because everybody's going to carry burden. But if you can, we always say, and I've heard you say this to me and back to you, like, give it to God. That's hard sometimes to just give it to God, because while I would love to just say, hey, can you just take all these burdens off of me? He's not going to just take them all away. He's going to help me process them and help me carry that load so that I feel lighter in my burden and that I can walk forward and continue to progress.
Yeah, so that's really good. those things definitely stand out to me as well. He says, come to me. And so we have to come to him. So our rest is found in him, like you said, and he will. And it's just, I don't know, you guys, do you ever feel like you're laboring and it feels heavy? You're trudging through mud a little bit.
Far too
sometimes.
often.
Yeah.
And what is this? What do you guys know about yoke? Because it says, take my yoke.
Mhm.
So a yoke was used with the animals, right?
Right.
And you talk, and in the Bible, it talks about a yoke of slavery and like these
Right.
heavy things. A
Mhm.
yoke is heavy, but Jesus's yoke is different from the world.
Yeah, I see that as how he wants to train me in the way I should go. His burden is light. His yoke is light. He's wanting to teach me. I want you to teach, and that's one of the things I had learning from Jesus. While you take an ox or something like that, and you're forcing this bit into its mouth to go do these things, his yoke is easy. He's like, hey, let me, like you just mentioned, Bobby, and to say, hey, let me walk with you. Let me walk you to this. Come to me, is what I hear him say. And he goes, and then I will lead you. Come to me and I will lead you. And I usually show up to him and I go, I've got all this stuff. Here, I got this and I got this and I got that. And oh, by the way, I brought this whole truckload of stuff over here. And he's like, cool. We'll just leave that there for now. And let's go for a walk. Because I want to teach
That's
you
a good
something.
strategy for sure.
I don't do it though.
Okay.
I try, but
You
sometimes.
do it, and you're too hard on yourself, because I see you do that. So, sometimes it's hard because when you do have the truckload of things that you're carrying in burden, sometimes it's just needing help with the heaviest thing,
Mhm.
and then the other things seem much lighter. And
Yeah.
so I see his yoke as much like you did. I see it as that partnership of, hey, when you think of the actual yoke, like you talked about an ox or horse yokes, like it keeps them from going off the trail, or off where you want them to go. So that yoke that he's partnering with us is to help keep us on the right track and to lighten that so that we don't make mistakes that are going to make it much heavier.
I think for me, I tend to want to do it all on my own, carry the load, do all that. And it's not until I'm forced sometimes. Okay,
agree.
God, take some, please. And that's not what he's calling us to do. He's saying, walk with very little load and let him take that on and walk with in that freedom. And I don't do that.
Yeah.
I mean, I tend to be like, what can I do physically and mentally by myself? And then I'll give God whatever seems like daunting or impossible. But I wonder what my life would be like if I just did it to begin with.
I think about that scripture, I can do all things through Christ.
Yeah.
But he's talking about not everything that you can do. He's talking about what he's given you to do,
Mhm.
right? And how many times do we add?
According to his will. Yeah. I mean, and yeah.
Somebody
It's like-
said last week, "Oh, well, cool. Go jump off a bridge. See how it works out." He hasn't equipped me to jump off bridges.
Right.
Yeah.
Valid
Yeah. I was
point.
like,
or
cool.
what did you say earlier, right before we're about to film? That's not a today problem.
Okay. Yeah, we
Yeah.
can
Yeah.
reference the oldest there, Stephen. He who was on this podcast a while back. He goes, "That's not a problem for today." Well, actually, as I learned more about what we were chatting about, that is a decision that needs to be made today. But I came into it with all of these assumptions and just said, well, it just sounds like not a problem for today. Well, just like with Steven, his refrigerator, the seal wasn't working. He's like, that's a problem for tomorrow. And I'm like, actually, that is a problem for today because your refrigerator's not sealing. But sorry, sidetrack. There you go. There's the backstory on that.
Gotcha.
We do, but those are all the things that like pile up.
Oh, yeah,
and
all
add to
that.
our heaviness and our load. And sometimes we don't even know we're carrying this load. And so, can you guys think of any time you've experienced this where you remember coming to him and finding rest?
Oh, many times. When I think just through the years, just financially, when financial burdens got tough, changing jobs, adding kids into your life, and all of a sudden you had daycare expenses and diapers and all those things. And how are we gonna make all this work on what we already struggle to do when you're young and things like that. That was a big one, is financial burdens, handing it over to him and just saying, I'm going to do what I know to do, what you've equipped me to do in my life, and be the best I can be at that. And I'm going to leave it with God that He's going to work things out, that, so long as I'm doing my part of, being financially responsible and not going, well, God's got it, so I'm going to go buy a boat, or, those types of things that, young people do. I mean, we did that. We were people that were like, oh, we make enough money now, we qualify to do this. Well, yeah, somebody will always get you qualified to buy something or go in debt on something. But he encourages us not to do that, not to go in and be indebted in those things. And I think financial burdens are one that people reach out to God heavy for a lot, because it's heavy, because it doesn't, it's the thing that keeps you awake at night. You can ignore it all day long when you're doing all the things that you're supposed to be doing, or maybe not supposed to be doing. But when you lay your head to rest and you pray, or you think, or you get in your head, that's the time when those burdens become heavy. And often people resort and they go, gosh, God, help me figure this out. And He certainly will help you figure it out. And the answer may not be what you're looking for. That boat may have to go back, or you may have to change up how you do things. But there's always an answer. There has 100%, every single time I've asked, there's always been an answer.
That's awesome. What other times? Anything else that comes to mind, or you remember experiencing His rest when you were carrying a heavy load?
I mean, I have several, but I think what stands out in my mind, I don't have a specific story, but it's always been for me when I have to make a decision that I really don't know which way is the right way. And then when there's that forced, and I shouldn't say that, but when I give it over, it's like suddenly doors start to open, or that peace starts to surpass, and like all the things that maybe, and it's just like He's taken care of it all along. It's just I've been like, like fighting, like, oh, let me.
Why don't we remember that feeling? Like when you finally give it over and you have that such feeling of peace, like all is well and right in the world, we go, okay, thank you, Lord, for doing this for me. Why don't we remember that when we're hanging on to, for dear life, all of the burdens, and going to, make it all the pegs fit? How come we can't remember, like, hey, he's got you, and what a great feeling that is.
I was watching a show the other day, and y'all wouldn't watch it because y'all make fun of me for the movies. I watched the sappy
We would
movies.
like to tell us the title.
Well, I don't remember, but I frequent
She doesn't remember,
the
folks.
Hallmark Channel a lot. But anyway.
Oh, that's all you had to say. Got it. Please continue.
Okay.
It's a Christmas movie, folks.
No, so this was it was really cool, and I hope I quote it right, but it was like, if God guides you to it, He'll provide. No, hold on. If God is guiding, God will provide. Or if I just messed that up.
God
But
provides.
Did y'all heard that?
Yeah.
Make it sound better. I had it. It's if you're gonna trust God to guide you, He will provide for you. But that's not what they said. But
Well, that's pretty good.
it was good. So
And often He is preparing us for something. Sorry,
Yeah.
you had something.
I don't know. I always like counter questions. Like, so if God's guiding and providing, does His provision look like our provision?
Not always.
That's
No.
right. That's right.
Often looks very different.
Yeah, so it does, because He's a God who created a universe, and I'm Jerry who created the world of Jerry, and it's fairly jacked up at times. So I go back to the question of finding rest and decision making, because I can be really good at making the wrong decision. We do as humans, but He's also equipped us to make the right decision a lot of times. So from job change to financial insecurity to health, the starting of church almost 5 years ago, these things were big deals. And there's no way that my version it never worked out. So to find the solution or to see the provision that he was going to provide, I had to go to rest and turn it over, right? And I found rest when I turned over the heavy yoke and said, okay, there's probably going to be some discipline along the way upon me personally, whether it's going to start spiritually. And then he's going to say, watch what I do in your life with me leading and not you leading. I'm like, okay, well, because if I get off on the Jerry trail, I mean, you know where that goes. And he's like, I'm aware. Let's stay on my path. And I'm like, okay, let's do that. So I can point to individual times and multiples within those periods of time, and still to this day, where the rest is there if you turn it over. Yeah.
100%.
Yeah.
Like my whole journey into this podcast, into weekday ministries, everything is about turning it over to God. Because when I came to weekday ministries as a volunteer, almost 3 years ago now,
Maybe even
pretty close to
before that with
as
the
a
school
volunteer.
district
Well,
too.
with the school district, but as a volunteer after Dan passed away, I just walked through the door like, hey, I'm here to help. And I distinctly remember in the weeks prior to that, we were in summertime and I had lost Dan in May. And, I had talked to Hope, like, how am I going to do this for the next 30 years by myself? And she's like, oh, you're not by yourself. Like, there's lots of people for you to walk this journey with. And I'm like, I know, but I don't have this person that's been with me my entire adult life. I met Dan when I was 16. So as an adult, I had never been without my guy there. And it's like, how am I going to make decisions? How am I going to do all those things without him there? And, I had great encouragement from the people around me, like, hey, give it to God. Like, he's got you. And, most of the people on this podcast know my story that, Dan encouraged me to volunteer. And I walked through that door in August and we were getting clothes with kids. And it just felt like the burden lifted, like I'm where I'm supposed to be. And, just the whole conversation between you and I about going back to work and me needing to go back to work. Cause again, I needed to provide for provision for myself to ensure that I financially could make it and that I could do, I could always go back to education. That was an option, but it wasn't where I was feeling like I should go. Like he was guiding me like, no, this ministry is your pathway. And here we are almost 3 years, to the month later that Dan told me, hey, you need to do this. That Dan wink and that God nod, like, hey, yep, that's the path. Don't get off that path. And so, and I haven't thought about it. Like it's so surreal when I think about how this transpired. And here we sit getting the opportunity to tell people like, what a cool testimony and journey that if you give it to God, and I did, I was like, I don't know what else to do. Like I have to give it to God because Bobby doesn't have the answer. And that was rare. I usually had an answer. I was usually pretty good at making decisions. And I was like paralysis with decision making, like what's going to happen next. And here we are. Like I'm going to cry. Oh, sorry, guys. What a great testimony that if you need the rest, and I was heavily needed rest, both physically, mentally, spiritually. We had traveled such a hard journey into just making sure that, my guy made his transition and, to the gates of heaven and that I would be okay. And here I am and I'm okay. I'm great. I'm crying because I'm excited. I'm happy.
Yeah.
It's a great walk. And I just, I implore people who are heavy in their walk, like, oh, is this going to get better? Am I okay? Yeah. It's going to get better. It's going to get great. Yeah. Like, this is great stuff. And like, I can shout it from the rooftops. I tell everybody I know what a great journey this has been. And I'm sure there are people that are going, we know your journey, stop.
No.
But I want the people that don't know my journey, that are struggling, that feel that heavy burden, like, man, just walk to him and just feel him take that lift off of you. Like, I don't feel like I've got the oxen's yoke. I feel like that was lifted. And like, now I'm bad. I can carry this burden. Like, whatever it is, I've got this. And very rarely do I find myself sinking into, oh, it's going to be a long 30 years. I'm like, man, it's going to be, it's going to be packed in with
Yeah.
really cool stuff
Yeah,
and
sure.
that's God laid out for me. And I'm not trying to dominate this, but I just know it's such a powerful thing when you give it over and that you need the rest. And the spiritual rest and the burden rest allow me to get the other rest. I think it's all connected together.
Yeah, and it is the difference of what the world would say rest looks like. And so one of the things the ironic thing, not ironic, that the scripture comes right before Jesus talks about that he's Lord of the Sabbath, because there's all these rules around the Sabbath, and the Sabbath was there for rest, but there were so many rules around rest that it was actually a burden
Yeah.
to rest. And so he is giving us this other option, and it is to rest in him. It looks very different than what the world offers and that yoke. And so you've mentioned, like, why is rest important? Why it was important for you to rest in him, and that rest looked like just handing over your burdens. And for me, it's the same thing. It's like, okay, God, this is too heavy for me to carry. I can't carry this. Cancer, job loss, whatever. Those are actually the ones where you go, I have no choice
That's right.
but to give it off. But sometimes there's littler ones, and we're just going, and we're carrying, and we're carrying, and we're carrying.
Yeah,
and then
we got this. It's
right,
that
we've got
mode.
this.
Yeah.
We're in our self. We've
Backpack full
got
of
this.
stones.
Mhm. When we think we got it, and then all of a sudden we're heavy and we're burdened. And so what does that look like in the everydayness for you guys of remembering it's important for me to rest and let this go?
You want to talk about cabinets?
Sure, let's do it.
No.
Oh, you're gonna.
Well, I don't have a cabinet issue, but there's things in the day. I think we all encounter. We can start in relationship, especially with other humans, other creations of the Lord, His favorite creations, and we create burdens within them, especially if there's personal stuff like offense or something. Ooh, we talked about that once, and we're actually called to find rest in Him, but also joy in the relationships that we have with people. And oftentimes we trade the joy for burden, and we wrap our minds, our flesh around the status of those relationships and the unknowns. And he's like, an unknown is probably fear or anxiety, and all these things flare up, which are entirely the opposite of rest. And he says, what if you found rest in me? What would your relationships look like? I think relationships, we can't avoid them. And they're everyday occurrences. And if we approached every relationship with, what would Jesus do? Or what would Jesus say? What would the relationship look like? So I don't know why I thought of relationships versus cabinets, but I did.
Well, and everybody's like, "What is cabinet?" So I
Put
can.
dishes in them.
I will, extenuate the cabinet story. Is that a word? Extenuate. I'm tired. I need rest. Rest. That's my problem. So I'm trying to implement in my life to do more self-care and the resting in God. And what does that look like? Rest in Jesus. Rest first. But what happens is, I don't know why. I need y'all to hold me accountable, but I have to do all the have to things first before I can relax. So with the cabinets, Jerry walks in and we're about to film. And what's on my mind? I've got to decide something about cabinets here. And so it's like I have to, I don't have to because it's tomorrow. Tomorrow's problems are tomorrow's. But I don't know how to switch that. And it's like, what if we first brought all that to Christ, and then I just sit there with my
I have the same
struggle.
disability. It's a spiritual disability. That's what I call it. And I'm the one that goes through the list first. Let me get through all of these things, right?
Yes.
And then I will find rest in the Lord. And he's like, not a chance.
Start there.
Because the list will never end.
I
guys.
think
The
because
list never ends.
I don't know, ingrained in my head growing up is you get the work first, then you can play. Like you get the work done and then you play. Like that is just in
That's
my
a
head.
different yoke, right? That's not the yoke. That's the yoke of the world.
That is, and I'm the same. I'm in the same boat, man. We're just rowing together. Let's go to work. All right. We're just rowing in circles.
I'm like, are you in
Yeah,
circles?
we're just rowing on the left. We're just going in circles. Yeah, we're not going anywhere.
Yeah, because I know I call y'all in the mornings or I talk to y'all and y'all are walking. And I'm like, that's so great. I don't walk till at night because I have to do all my stuff first. But I want to walk in the morning. But
It's the best thing you can do for yourself.
Well,
Well, we probably wouldn't without accountability.
Because I would have to, I couldn't do it unless I did all my work first.
Sounds like the Shaws need to move into Seven Creeks.
Yeah.
You listening, Caleb?
Yeah, that's a hint.
So anyway, sorry. That's the
No, but
struggle that I'm.
I do think it's a struggle to know the difference between the worldly burdens that we bring upon ourselves. Like Jerry said, we're picking them up, putting them in the rucksack. Oh, I'm going to carry this one. I'm going to carry that one. Some of those we don't need. We carry other people's burdens all the time. And I see people doing that and it's like, don't do that. Don't carry other people's burdens. Like that's their burden to carry and let them give that to God. You can pray for them, but don't carry the burden. And sometimes we get mired down in that. And like you said, you got to get to the spiritual stuff. Give that spiritual stuff to God and let Him help you. And of course, there's worldly responsibilities that we have. We have to exist.
Absolutely.
But then they're just responsibilities, and you just click them off in the order. You get your little planner out, or however you do it, your checklist, and you just go through it. And it doesn't seem so heavy when you start clicking it off the list. Donna gave me this great organizer that I started using, and it has brought me such peace to be able to click that little box off and go, yep, I accomplished that. Yep. Sometimes I'm filling it out later in the week, and I'm clicking off boxes that I've already done, and that feels even better that I've already done those things. And so those burdens are taken care of because I'm getting them off the list. And I'm not really carrying them. I'm just doing them. But I think they get mixed in with all the other things when we're picking up those rocks and putting them in the rucksack to carry, that we can't do that. Like carry your own things that you need to accomplish and don't consider them burdens. They're just things that have to happen. And the things that weigh heavy on us spiritually, we have to connect with God on those to ensure that we have Him in our corner and He's the master. Like, why would you go to anybody else? He's the best teacher ever. So if you need help on those, go to God because He's going to have the answer for you. Now, sometimes you have to really listen and try and figure out what that answer is or what He's telling you.
Silence and
But
solitude.
being in silence, it's so hard. And I've said that time and time again, that silence time, it's like, say it, please. And it's hard to listen when it's silent. And the walking time helps. Even if we're talking, with each other, it's like that. Being in nature and being in God's country just helps you to connect with Him, whether it's by yourself or with others who are like-minded spiritually. We definitely walk that walk together. So you're welcome to come walk with us anytime.
Well, yeah.
So on the little, do I have that same task
You have the same
calendar
little
thing?
calendar
By the
thing.
way, sometimes I don't have anything for the day, and then at the end of the day, I go write everything down and check it off. But
I do too.
so it is what it is.
That's
but there's
cheating.
No,
You're supposed to.
I don't know if it's cheating. I feel like it's just like, well, Don, I was actually just finding rest and really busy right off the gate, so I couldn't make that
Recording
list.
the day.
Right. I resonate with both of them because that is how I'm wired in my head as well. I know where I need to go. But I also want to think about who Jesus's audience was here. He had just received messengers from John the Baptist, right? That he's, we know what happens to John the Baptist. So Jesus is actually walking through and he's having a dialogue with the Father as well.
Yes.
And that's incredibly important because Jesus, he went and found rest on a regular basis. So if the creator of the universe found rest in creating the universe, and then the God in the flesh in the form of Jesus went to find rest, why shouldn't I go find rest? But is it a command or is he asking?
Or offering.
Offering.
Right.
That's a good word.
He's not saying you need to do this, but those folks then were so overwhelmed with just religious burden you know, and the Pharisees and the Sadducees and everybody telling them to do these things. And they just came from John the Baptist, some of them, this wild man out in the wilderness, you know, and they're just like, okay, he's very different than the rest of them. And so is Jesus. So they were like, well, they're asking us to do all of these things,
Which is not restful.
which is not restful. So just to keep up with, and I don't know if you're going to share this story about your time in Israel about the Sabbath or not, but that doesn't sound restful, that you can't push the elevator button. But he says, come to me and find rest, all who are weary. And I'm guessing these guys were pretty worn out too. They're like, we don't know who to follow, what to do. And he's like, follow me, come to me. Yeah.
Yeah, I think that's our main point today is rest from the world's standards looks a lot different.
Yeah.
But there is this offer, like you said, there's this offer from Jesus that says, hey, you who are laboring and heavy laden, come to me and find rest. And if we could just remind each other and encourage each other, do you feel heavy right now? If so, find rest in Jesus. If we can encourage one another in that, are there any other things that you guys would say to people? Like, just remember this.
All right, so I'm going to go with the question of how do you find rest? How do you apply that in your life personally? Is it? I'm going to go back to, because I just got done chatting with Tom, but you know, for me, it's I have to go here. I have to go back to the Word. Mm-hmm. If I'm not in the Word, I guarantee you I can find that my life, not you, my life, my wife is not, by the way, full of anxiety and such, but my day is wrapped around with anxieties and restlessness. Mm-hmm. It's the opposite of rest if I don't start here. Yeah.
Start there, end there. I mean,
Yeah,
if you can make
absolutely.
a habit of that, the middle of the journey gets pretty easy.
Mm-hmm.
Well, and as we were all talking too, I think stop turning to others for that rest. And because I tend to kind of cast my everything on my spouse or my closest friends and get their feedback. But what would it look like if we rested in Jesus first and then just, brought it to him first? And I think it would look a lot different. And probably save y'all a lot more talking time from me.
And especially, yeah.
Well, I'd love to hear his response to you, because
Yeah.
I hear his responses to me, but I don't often get to hear his responses to others.
Mhm.
So that would be a cool thing to share.
Yeah.
Yeah. And when we rest, we get those responses.
Yeah, like what is God saying to me when I was bringing this situation up? It's kind of neat to maybe have that conversation versus what do I do?
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Or yeah.
And
What cabinet should I pick?
Cabinets happen, man.
Yeah, we've had those conversations though, when Hope is a good listener and, Jerry's a good listener. And so I use them as a model, like, hey, silence and solitude, just do it, make yourself do it. But hearing, hey, we're called to do this and we're listening to do this. We're called to plant a church. And, 10 years ago, me would have been like, who called you?
Right.
Seriously.
Did the ring? Did the phone ring?
Did someone?
Sometimes you don't know until you show up.
Yeah.
And sometimes all you got to do is show up.
Well, and just,
Yeah.
Getting into the Word and silence and solitude, even in its difficulty, knowing, oh, I know what that sounds like. I know what that word is. And, I've had a whole conversation with Jerry about, Jesus's voice, and I've heard it. And I've had that testimony, at the Heaven's Gates, and I've heard it other places. And it's really cool to hear if you listen. And sometimes it's like, stop, slow down here. You want to hear the voice. But listen, because he's saying really
That's
cool
another great thing for why is it important. Sometimes God has things to say to you, but you're not listening, right? So if we can put down the yoke that we're carrying, that we decided to carry, that the world gave us and we took on, and we sit with him. And for me, my strategy is that silence and solitude, time for whatever length that looks like. It takes me a while to get there because my brain won't slow down. So I'm just slow at it. But that's where I hear his voice, and then I can emerge with his yoke and not mine or the world's.
That.
Great place to be.
Well, I know we're probably wrapping it up, but I've been thinking about this, and I just want to say to our audience, whoever the viewer is that's faithfully viewing every Wednesday at 4:30 a.m., please message us because that's so awesome.
Yeah.
And we've been wondering about that because there is one person that every Wednesday 4:30 a.m. right?
Yep.
That's pretty cool.
That is
so
pretty cool.
Just you can private message us, or we have our
We would love for
comments
you to
turned
private
on now.
message
Okay,
us
cool.
and let us know, because praise to you for starting your day off with, some positives, and, we appreciate you listening to us. And
Yeah. But yeah, do comment, share, give us feedback. We'd love to hear from you guys. We appreciate you listening, watching this time together at Jesus Loves Joe. Go see us at weekdayministries.com.